Hey, good afternoon. Hey, today I want to very quickly go over the 5 types of interviews that you can expect when you're searching for an executive position. Now, for me, an executive position would be either something that pays 6 figures, let's say you're highly specialized or highly trained, highly skilled, highly experienced. And so you're making multiple 6 figures usually. And then also anyone at a director level or above. It would be director, vice president, or C-suite. All right. So these are the 5 types of interviews that you could expect. It doesn't include an informational interview where you are asking the questions of the person. These are 5 interviews when you would be considered being in a hiring process. All right. So number 1 is the screening interview or the telephone interview. Most of the time the screening interview is done by human resources or a recruiter. That means an internal recruiter or an external recruiter. And I would recommend reaching out to the top executive recruiting firms if you want to be considered for any position, especially if it's publicly posted. You would want to talk with people like Korn Ferry and Spencer Stewart, Russell Reynolds, Egon Zehnder, just to name a few. And then most of the time these screening interviews are done by telephone. However, I would say since last year they are more and more often happening on a video. And usually that's Microsoft Teams. Zoom is probably the most popular. And also there are a few companies that still do WebEx. And so you can expect to be ready for a video interview even during a screening interview. So the second type of interview is that one-on-one video interview. Many times it is with a hiring manager, and it is usually, like I said, one-on-one. It is taking the place pretty quickly of the in-person interview. So the on-site interview is number 3, and sometimes, especially with an executive position, you're going to find that companies still want to meet you face to face. The only time that wasn't happening was last year and earlier this year in 2021, prior to things starting to open up. So there are companies now that are hiring still based solely on video interviews. However, if you're not going to be expected to go in and meet them face to face, you can expect though that it's going to take longer for them to make up their mind, as well as you will probably be talking to multiple people, more people than you would if it were just an in-person interview. Oftentimes with the on-site interviews, they will schedule you for a half day or a full day with anywhere from 4 to 8 or 10 interviews sometimes during the course of one day. Usually they will fly you out the morning of or the night before, and then you would be flying home that evening usually, or sometimes they'll have you stay the night afterward. But usually it's usually hopping back on a jet on the way home after, say, 6 p.m. So the screening or telephone interview is number 1. Video interview is number 2. That's the one-on-one video interview. And then you've got the panel interview. Now, a panel interview is usually with 3 or more people. I've seen it up to 8 people, which is pretty big. And with a panel interview, what they're doing is they're getting everyone together at the same time rather than doing a series of one-on-one interviews. So that panel will then discuss you after the interview's over. So just understand that sometimes you'll get up to 8 interviewers, and then when that happens, it feels very much like Brady Bunch. So just be prepared for the video interview in that case. As you know, with the panel interviews and the video interviews, I would highly recommend picking up I've got a video interviewing checklist. I'll put that in the description. I'll put a link to it in the description. It will really give you 10 steps of things you need to consider prior to the video interview. That also includes Lighting, like the right lighting, a lapel microphone like this one. Oftentimes, if you don't have a dedicated microphone plugged into your computer, that could really be kind of embarrassing and not effective, because what happens is if you're using the ambient, especially like a laptop microphone, it's not a good idea, because the first word or two that you say usually gets cut off, and so you don't want it to be clipped in the beginning or the end. That's not good. So a lapel microphone can be bought on Amazon for as little as $15 or $20 US, and I would highly recommend that, as well as some professional lighting, specifically lighting that allows you to change the temperature of it. And that way, if you need it warmer, which is usually the best case, or you can do it cooler if you need to be more of a pink blue versus kind of a warmth. I've got professional lighting on me, and it's at 3,000 degrees Kelvin. So if you know anything about the lighting, usually they will go from 3,000 on the warm end to 8,000 on the cool end, and you want to stay as close to 3,000 as possible on the temperature of the lighting. Okay, so you've got the on-site interview. Again, that can be a panel, or that can be one-on-one or two-on-one for an entire afternoon or an entire day. So be prepared for that. Also be prepared to caffeinate or whatever you need to do to keep that energy up, because you don't want the energy to wane, because especially with the on-site interviews, a full day of them, you will find that the most important ones are happening at the end of the day. So you do not want to be lacking energy or lacking focus at the end of the day. So make sure that you prepare for that. So then the final one, and this is something that I'm finding to be more and more popular, and that is a case study interview. So I would be very interested, if you've done a case study interview before, put something in the comments, please, if you're watching this on YouTube or on my blog. And that way, with a case study interview, it's very different. It's very specialized. They will do them one of two ways. They will either give you a case to solve, or basically a problem with a lot of criteria to solve, and they'll give that to you ahead of time, and then you'll have usually anywhere from 72 hours to 7 days to prepare a case study, basically showing, like a slide deck, showing how you would solve the problem that they've presented to you. Now, other times they might give you nothing ahead of time, and then the morning of the case study interview, they will give you the information, and then they will want you to walk them through your thoughts and your approach, and not necessarily solve the problem if you're doing it live, but it will give you the opportunity to let them know how you solve problems overall. Really, I would recommend preparing for that. Just like, even if you don't know the questions in the SAT test, you would still want to prepare for the SAT test. So just like the SAT test or any of those standardized tests, I would really recommend that you study for a case interview ahead of time, just so that you understand the approach you need to take and everything that you need to keep in mind when you are doing a case study, even live. Okay? Well, that's what I wanted to cover with you today. We've got the screening or the telephone interview, the video interview, the panel interview, the on-site interview, and then the case study interview, which, like I said, is becoming more and more common. I hope that has helped you today. And if you've got questions, if you'd like me to really cover any topic that you're finding you're being approached with, or any problem that you've got in your career search, I would love to hear about it, because I am committing to do these every day, a little bit every day. So let me know what kind of issues you're having, and I'd be very happy to answer those. All right, that's what I got for you today. This has been Tammy Kabell with Career Resume Consulting, and thanks for watching.